Okay, welcome. Happy Sunday, everybody. And the weekly candle close just closed right now for Bitcoin and opened a new candle. So it did close, in fact, at what was that, 67,938. And that's a good close, right? So we're going to just take a look at some things here. It did close back above the green level that I had here, 62. It did, in fact, make a higher high as well from these candles before. So it's been, according to market structure, a series of higher highs. This high, this one's higher than that one, and that candle's higher than that one. So it's a series of higher highs, but it's still not closing above that 69,000 yet. So we're just going to have to be more patient for it to break. And then on linear scale here is what I'm really going to show you, that the true support seems to be for Bitcoin right here at the 702, the 66,577. And I've pointed that out quite a few times on X, that on the daily chart, since it broke out, it actually has not closed a daily candle underneath this 66,577 ever, right? This one closed at that one had 66,601. This one was at 66,578. So by $1, it closed above it. So this level is proven to be very, very important support level, 66,577, which is the halfway point in between the 786 and the 618. So Bitcoin does look pretty good here. And the next step is getting back above the 68,612 and ultimately the 69,000 level above. So that is going to be the target really to really kick things off a lot stronger. And I think if it can start to close above there, then it'll be really, really powerful move after that. But until then, it's just stuck in a range, right? It's stuck between this 66.5. It does wick below. And also this 69,000 is that range. So we're not going to expect anything exciting until this zone can break. Now let's go to the total crypto market cap here. And that also closed another week above the 786. So 2.221 trillion is looking pretty good here for continuation, right? From the all-time high down to the low, it's above the 786. So this is a crucial level to hold for the total market cap. If that continues to hold, then I think it has the potential to continue higher. And others is still getting rejected by resistance here. Still lots of resistance here at the 233. We can put on other indicators, and this is going to show even more resistance, as I've been showing throughout the week, that this bottom of the cloud, the baseline, the 50-week, and that 618 Fibonacci at 222 billion is all resistance. This is a big resistance zone here. And you can see it even it pressed up against the week before. This past week, it got rejected with the big candle. So a lot of coins did sell off there, down 8%. And now it's just retesting support again. So we got to just wait, be more patient for the altcoins, because they are stuck under a lot of resistance still before they're ready to break higher. All right, so I'm going to do some requests here. I do see it. I see the first one, SHX. Gonna just pull this up here. And I have the GAN pulled up from the orange level here back in February. It did get rejected and back down to the 100-week. And now it's actually closing candles back below the 236. So we're gonna have to see how this week handles this resistance level now, because the 236 looks like it had the opportunity to continue closing above, but it did not. So the conversion line above is going to be your really hardcore resistance now, 00422. And I think it even has potential to possibly retest this 100-week moving average still, because it closed another week below. But before that, there is a lot of support with these previous candles here. So it might not go down there, but it might just be stuck for a while in between this conversion line and maybe around the bottom of this wick here, around 0033. So SHX does look just stuck right now and maybe needs a lot more time before it gets a little bit more bullish. Yeah, I see Tau. I actually had a request for Ray too. So I'm going to do Ray real quick. And Ray is actually super bullish. Closed the week out really, really bullish. So we're going to turn off these things because I don't need them for this chart. And I just need my Fibonacci from the high up here and the low. And I have my Gann. So it did have its highest weekly candle close in a long time, right? It did close basically above this wick here. So that is a higher high from here. But it is reaching some kind of resistance with these previous candles over here back in March of 2022. But it looks like it can get to $4. And then the 786 sits up here around 624. So that could be some strong resistance in the future. But this is a very, very powerful chart now. And what I really want to pay attention to now is maintaining this angle as support. So just continue riding this angle up, maybe like $3 is support, and then just ride it all the way up to maybe the 786 and beyond. But this has potential now to go up to the $13, especially since it's breaking higher in a bullish continuation. So let's just pay attention to this 414 as resistance and maintain this angle as support. Yeah, I'll get to BONK really quickly here, but let me just do the other requests ahead of you. So I'll start with Tau first. Tau. So just gonna zoom in here on Tau and pay attention to that 702. It was a perfect back test. So a breakout back test. And not only that, if you put on the Ichimoku cloud, it was a back test of that cloud as well. So that's the goal. The goal is to stay above the 478 and also stay above the cloud. So it's done that last week. It's still above it right now, but it could go down during this week and just turn into like a wick and go back up. So since it did close the week back below the 786, that is once again going to be resistance for Tau, the 544. So that is your range. Your range is in between 478 and 544. And it might be in that range for some time until it just builds up enough strength to go higher. But this is a really bullish formation here, breaking out, got rejected, back testing the cloud, and trying to continue higher. Yeah, so ADS. So ADS actually had a pretty good weekly candle close too. It did close back inside the cloud there and above the bottom of the cloud. So that is a good thing, but it's below the baseline still. But nonetheless, it did get back above important levels, and that is the important part. So it did close, in fact, below that 50%, 17.5 cents, but that's okay, right? That's going to be a resistance on the way back up. But if you look at it from this angle here, just a perfect breakout, got rejected by the 618, came back down to back test the bottom of the cloud. It did a wick below, and it held within the cloud. So a pretty bullish development, but it's not really ready to break higher yet because there's now still more resistance above. So I think just give it more time. Maybe it needs more time to build a base on top of this bottom of the cloud here in order to try to go higher. So DAG. DAG had a pretty spectacular week, right? Yeah. Basically what happened is it just went straight up to the arc, straight up to the baseline, 0.36 during that week, and way back down. So everything that I thought it was going to hold, it did not even on the daily chart here. It didn't hold any kind of support. So it's back even below the 50-day and the 100-day moving average. So it is a breakout, got rejected by the 200-day, and now back below. So what does that mean? That means this blue angle is once again your support. That is now it's around 0.022. So that is your true support. As you can see, it's been support throughout time. So that is going to be your support again. So everything that it gained, it basically lost. But it is still higher than it was before, back down here. So we'll see if this can just maintain, try to push at least the next day back above it to try to get back above these moving averages in order to go towards the top of the cloud. But overall, it's just stuck, right? It's just stuck in between a big range here, and maybe not much will happen until possibly this gets tighter and tighter, maybe in February of 2025. Maybe then it'll have some opportunity to go through the arc at that time. But until then, it looks like it's just stuck under a lot of resistance. And as long as support holds over time, it can break the resistance above. BONK, BONK. So I do have a GAN on this one, and it is holding support pretty nicely. So this orange angle here, you can see that it did go below it a little bit here, but this bullish engulfing brought it back above the conversion line, and now it's holding support pretty well. So your support does sit right here at the quad 2064 right there. So that is your support. And your resistance for the week is going to sit up here at the baseline and that angle above at the 2978. So that's the range. It is closer to support than it is resistance. So it could be some good opportunities to continue higher. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my list. So did Bitcoin, Ethereum is going to be next. And Ethereum did in fact close back below that 618, the 2532. That was the target to close above, but it did not. So now we're looking at support right there around 2458, and you have a lot of support below that with the 200 week and the 100 week moving average at 2364 and 2297. So lots of layers of support. It is holding this 200 week perfectly. So just got to give it more time, since it's closing candles back below the 618. So that could be your resistance this week. Let's see if it can gain momentum and go and continue higher. But if it gets stuck under 2532, then it possibly could go back lower and test support. TON closed the week below the arc and below the 236, the 514 that was holding so well for so long. It broke. And it even opened a new candle underneath this blue angle too. So it's not looking the greatest right now, because that's just going to be one more layer of resistance above now. But the good news is it's still above the 200-week moving average. Sorry, the 50-week moving average at 486. So that green line there is the 50-week. If that can continue to hold, then it has the opportunity to maybe trend higher along it, and then possibly later on flip everything back to a support. And Doge is looking really good here. So not only has it closed a second week above this 382, but it also closed a week back above my arc that I have here. And also it has lots of room to go above now. It has clear skies to go up to the top of the cloud, which is around 16 cents. So let's just zoom out, because this is like a new scale I have for Doge. So I wanted to show it to you guys. So it is from that all-time high down to the low there, and it is closing back above that 382. But more importantly, this top arc that is obviously a resistance in the past is trying to break above. So this is something that's pretty bullish for Doge. And if it can continue to flip this arc to support, then I think it can go much higher, even past that 16-cent zone, towards the 21 cents and beyond. So this is looking more and more bullish for Doge, and you can see the symmetry with this orange level and everything. So I do like this chart a lot now. And as long as this maybe 13.8, like 0.138, as long as that holds as support, I think this can go higher. And ADA is next, and this is just testing my black line that I drew over and over again. It can't close back above that 236 there, the 3567, but it is holding in this zone here, this previous resistance zone, previous support zone right here, breakout back test. So as long as 33 cents holds, I think this has potential to eventually go higher. And ALGO is next. So ALGO is, we're going to add the Ichimoku real quick. Yeah, so it's getting rejected by the conversion line, the 1286. And right now it's not really doing much, but it is also, when you zoom in here, it is holding a base around all these candles still. So it's not making lower lows, right? And if it's not making lower lows, then it still has the potential to try to go higher. So that's like the moral of the story for a lot of altcoins right now. They aren't going higher, but they also are not making lower lows. So this is a positive thing for at least building a base for an attempt to go higher later on. And XRP actually did close below levels, right? It did, in fact, close below the 100-week moving average too. So it closed below everything. All the indicators on my chart, right? The 200, the 50, the 100, the baseline, the conversion line, the cloud, everything. So it's not looking that great for continuation higher right now. But also, one thing that's important to point out is this black line that I drew. So this black line, it's a very important support zone in the past and resistance, right? Very important support and resistance zone in the past. Even over here, it was a resistance. Over here, it was a support too. So this is something to pay attention to. It's also kind of like the halfway point in between the arc too, right? It's like a halfway point. So even though it's underneath all the indicators, the symmetry of it all is still not terrible. So given that, it's not that bad, right? It is still around the support zone, and I think it still has an opportunity to break above those indicators that I listed here before. And XLM did in fact close back above that angle, and it did also close below the 236. So that 0.949 is still going to be the target to close above. Even more so that 0.950, the Ichimoku, the conversion line right there. So I think this whole zone is acting like as a support and a resistance zone. So it's really got to maybe break above that this following week to see if it can break higher and higher, because the baseline and the conversion line are basically around the same price, and price is underneath that right now. So it has to get above those in order for a chance to go higher. And one of the great cryptos today was Solana. So it closed back above the 886, above the baseline conversion line. Let me just take that off. We can see it better. Yeah, the 886, the 174.77. So that's going to be the goal, to continue closing above. And ultimately, the real goal is getting on top of this bottom, or getting top of this arc. You can see that it did try it before. It actually succeeded a little bit before, but then fell apart. But now, if it gets on top of there again, it really has an opportunity to shoot up straight up to 208, maybe 209. So that's going to be the goal. Get on top of that arc, flip it to a support, and then go higher into the 210s, maybe even the 240s above. And Link, it did continue to close weekly candles on top of, oh, actually, no, it didn't. It closed at 10.99, and the 100-week moving average is 11.01. So it did kind of close a little bit below it, and even opened a new candle below it too. So this is something to pay attention to. Just watch this 100-week. That 11.01 is really going to be the target to close weekly candles above. So it can't really go higher until it really gets above this 382. But right now, the goal is to just build a base on top of that 100-week, an attempt to close above this 11.95 later down the road. And next is Near. Near actually did the 50% level. It closed back below. So this is not really that good of a thing. I wanted it to close above, but the good news is it did hold above my orange level here, which was a resistance, breakout, backtest, flip to support. So as long as this 405 holds as a support zone, I think it can build that base to continue higher through the 447 and above. And Fetch. Fetch right here, it did close the week back below the 50-week moving average, even back below the 382, the 1.294. So this is looking like it's just going to be stuck now. So this did backtest the arc here, which did provide a good support before, and it could be a good support right now as well. So this 129 is the target to close candles back above. But in the meantime, your support really is going to sit down here at 116 and your resistance up here at 143. So this is the range it's going to get stuck in until it can break back above that 50-week moving average. And HBAR, no change really. It's just stuck still in between the arc and that black line where you can see week over week over week, it has been holding as a support. So this is something to pay attention to. Just keep that 0.0454 as support. And then slowly over time, it might get on the top side of that arc and be able to go higher. And now we got flare, FLR. It did finally get back to that 45-degree angle. So that is the true symmetrical support. And not only that, if you drew that black line that I have there, you can see it was a previous support zone here. So it's a breakout backtest finally, right? Finally, it did do what I was wanting it to do, get back to that 45-degree angle. And now the goal is to hold it, to hold that as support and continue higher. So the long wait of testing some support down here is finally over. It finally did it. Now we got to see the momentum pick back up and try to break resistance above. And now we have AZERO. No change for AZERO. Week over week over week over week, it's at 36 cents. It's not really going lower, but it might do what Flare wants to do and eventually go to that 45. So I'm going to have this whole zone as a support zone. So basically, if it did go down to there this week, it would be around 26 cents. So I don't think all the pain is over yet. I think that getting back to this 45 might be the next step before it attempts to even try to go higher. And the true symmetry was finally hit for TRIAS here. It lost all of that support, so I'm just going to take it all off. But the important thing is for TRIAS is to look at the symmetry of it all. From the bottom here, it went up to the blue, the angles, then the orange and the blue again, and then back down to support. So this is looking like it really has a possibility of being finally completed, right? This breakout and this back test. And this is still a higher low from here and here and here and here. So the market structure and the symmetry of it all, it does finally look completed. And could it come back down to the lower bodies of these candles, like the 260s? Yeah, I guess so, which could be down maybe towards this angle in time. But the reality of the situation is TRIAS, it finally looks complete. It looks like it has potential now to finally try to attempt to rebound now because this whole thing looks completed. And ICP, this one did close back below the 236, the 7.86. So that is going to be still your resistance, really. It did close so many weeks in a row above it, but finally it closed a week below it. So the 786 might be your resistance now. And if we put on other indicators, they don't really help us. They just confirm that there's more resistance up top. 8.42 is going to be more resistance. But like I said the week before, and that it really needs to get back above this conversion line for an attempt to go back to the 950s and above. So right now it's just stuck. And AVAX actually had a pretty decent weekly candle close, closing back above that fib right there. Let me just zoom in. That's the 382, the 25.45, and it closed above the conversion line there too. So therefore, that is your support. And it's just in a zone. So it's in between. It's been in between the conversion line and the baseline for a long time, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. but now it's closer to support than it is resistance. So it does have an opportunity to come back up to the $29. And render is next. So let's see, render, this one, 236, the 474. That did close, that held above. So this is a good thing, right? It did wick below all the way down here, but all these weekly candles in a row is still holding this fib level. So this is good for trying to build a base. So let's just pay attention to 474 and make sure that continues to hold. And if it does, it will have a possibility to try to go higher. And next is PEPE. So this one closed above that fib, the 382, the 884, and even closed above the conversion line there at that 9133776 right there. So we're going to consider that zone support still. And then that's going to mean it has an opportunity to get back up to this 1005 zone and possibly above. So it's a good breaking out and a back test of that zone for an attempt now to possibly go higher. And now we got SHIB, Shiba Inu. And this one actually did close back above support too. This one was 1701. That's your support. And your resistance is going to be that fib above the 382, this 1876 right here. So this is the zone it's in. It just broke out, back tested, and now it's stuck in a zone, just like so many other coins out there that they are stuck in a zone as well. And WIF. It did not have the positive weekly candle close that I was anticipating because it was trying to ride this angle up as support, but now it even closed back below the baseline and my angle. But the good news is the conversion line there at 217.9 has been holding as support. So what was really strong before, this weekly candle proves that it has more resistance above now at 257 and the angle above, which is at 270 now. So this is your zone. 257 down to 217. So once again, another coin that could be stuck in this zone before it's ready to try to go higher. And CAS, we did get that weekly candle close under the top of the cloud. So it finally closed a week for the first time ever in history, right? The first time ever that it closed a week inside of the Ichimoku cloud. So this is not a good thing, right? This is something that's going to be more resistance when it goes up. So now your resistance is the top of the cloud. That is the 131, 132 zone. If it can't close above this week, then I'm going to consider the bottom of the cloud your support, which is around 10 cents now, right? Or even the arc below could be around 9 cents. So this is looking weaker and weaker. And you can just see every week the wicks are going lower and lower. So we'll see how this one develops this new week. But if it gets rejected by the top of the cloud, I think it could roll over to the bottom of the cloud sooner than later. And VELO, it actually did open a new candle underneath the cloud for the first time in a very long time, since January of 2024. So this one is going to have more resistance above too. And I've been saying on this one, it's probably going to go back and retest that 50-week moving average. So that 0.010, that 1 penny could be the target for VELO before it even attempts trying to rebound and break this resistance above. And QNT, no change. I think it still might go back down to the 45 and retest the $56 just because it's weak, right? It can't get above any Fibonacci anymore. It can't get above the conversion line. It can't get above the arc. Can't get above anything. So a retest of that angle could be necessary. So I could see $56 before it really wants to go higher. But ultimately, it could just stay in this range between the cloud and the 45 for some time before it's ready to attempt to go higher. And INJ did in fact close back below the 886, and it did close above the arc, so that's okay. Below a fib, but above the arc. So we're going to take off these fibs right now and just look at the market symmetry of it all. So it did basically get rejected where these previous candles were, but the ARC is trying to hold as support. So that means this week it does sit around 168. So as long as 168 continues to hold as support for the weeks to come, I think it has an attempt to build a base on top of it to go higher. And we'll do a little bit, a few more since it's the weekly candle close. Yeah, I did XRP, and I'm going to put timestamps on them later. So if you missed it, you can wait for that. But if you have any other charts, if I didn't do them, you can ask Scott. So INJ, it's looking like it's going to go back down to the 100-week moving average right there at 16.74. So this is looking like your true support down there since it lost the conversion line as support, right? It was in between the baseline and conversion line for a while, but now it looks like it wants to retest even lower levels first before it attempts to rebound. And XDC still holding the red angle. You can see it's been holding perfectly, but it's underneath all the indicators. So it's relatively pretty weak, but at least as long as it continues to hold this angle, which is now around 0.026, then it has the potential to go higher. And AVE did lose that 200-week moving average just this week. So it was looking very, very bullish that it was going to stay above it, but this bearish engulfing candle put it right back down below the conversion line, which is at 148.37, and price is at 148.13. So now it could be one more layer of resistance and maybe more pressure to the downside. So we're going to look at this orange level to hold as support. So that orange level there sits around 145.50. And if this can hold as a base, then it has potential to go higher. But if not, it might need to test lower levels below. So what once looked really good, this weekly candle kind of negated a lot of things, but it still hasn't lost hope yet because it's still above the orange level of my GAN, which is a very important level in the past, and it's still going to be an important level right now. Let's see here. We'll look at ORAI. So ORAI, it's starting to open new candles underneath the 100-week moving average and the conversion line right there. So this is looking like price might want to go back to some lower levels, right? This is going to be resistance now, the 610, the 607. So we could see price go down a little bit, maybe retest these wicks here, or even possibly lower. So what was support in the past is now looking like resistance. So this is also just stuck and got to give it more time to try to break higher. And I'll just do a couple more here. Let's look at DOT. Yeah, DOT, it's still going towards these previous candles here, right? So I think now that it's losing all these levels here, the possibility to come back down to the 370s does exist. So we'll keep that in mind, but again, it's just stuck. It's stuck in between the conversion line at 439 and maybe these lower wicks in the 380s right here. So it's just like a lot of coins right now, just simply stuck. We'll look at TRX. Ooh, TRX actually had a good weekly candle close. Look at that. It closed above an arc, and it opened a new candle above the arc for the very first time. So this could be the first step to getting back towards 18 cents. But this has been a very slow mover. So we'll see if it has potential to go higher. But getting on top of this arc is the goal, and staying there is the goal. So right now that's around, the support is around 0.162. So if that can continue to hold as a support, then I think price can possibly go higher. And if you don't have any more requests, guys, I think I'll just do maybe a couple more here. Let's see here. We'll do JASMY. So JASMY, Yeah, it lost the 50-week moving average. It got into the cloud. It is looking what I thought could hold, right? I thought this support could hold. It did not. So this week, if it can't get back above and close back above this 1844, this sorry 01844, then there is a possibility to continue lower and maybe go towards the bottom of the cloud, which is at 0.015, or even this 100 week down here at 01152. So not a very good weekly candle close for JASMY here, but we'll see. We'll see if this week can close back above it or not. But ultimately, if it can't, it might roll over and head lower. All right, I'll do one more here. One more. I'll do VeChain. And VeChain, yeah, it's stuck as well. Underneath the conversion line and the 100 week, underneath my angle here. So it looks like it is trying to build a base with all these weekly candles here. But that's about it. So yeah, just like, I guess that's the theme, guys. That's the theme of today. A lot of things are holding support, but they're also stuck under resistance. So they're just stuck. So many coins right now are stuck, except for Doge. That one looks great. Except for Solana. That one looks great. But also Solana is a little bit stuck, right? It still has the arc above as well. And it has more resistance above that too. But that's the theme of even Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's still kind of stuck. You can see that with this chart right here. It's above support, but below resistance. So until Bitcoin and other coins can break out, I think the theme of the crypto market is that everything is still just going to remain in a zone, in a range, and keep testing their support levels until they are ready to go higher. So that's it for today, and I'll put on some timestamps in a bit so you guys can rewatch it in your own time. Thank you. Have a good one.